lovely morning to you and yours. Welcome to Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. This is the Morning Express, where we would be delving into reports that have been put together by our dailies. We would be looking at the Punch, Guardian and the Vanguard newspaper as we begin to consolidate all the many stories that are developing and new events that have played out in the last 24 to 48 hours. We call this segment of the Morning Express Trends in the Papers. I am your anchor. I'm Sage Baba. And what a wonderful conversation we've been having since the start of the week. We've been lucky enough to engage great minds across different sectors: security, politics, policies, etc. And I mean, yesterday we did enjoy the pleasure of having ᴛᴏᴘ-ᴜ join us in the studio to discuss both domestic and a little bit of international issues. Well, we are going to carry on that trajectory this morning as we officially open the discourse with Trends in the Papers. Now, after Trends in the Papers, we have Mainland Focus. For those of you who are unfamiliar with our routine here, we first have a segment where we speak mostly to reports that have been recorded in our newspapers, of course with the help of our in-house analyst who will be joining us in a few minutes via the phone. And then we move to Mainland Focus, where we allow you an opportunity to also opine on these matters. And on Thursdays, we call it Open Mic Thursday. Now on other days, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Fridays, you are somewhat restricted to about 2 stories that are oftentimes pulled from the plethora that we address during the show. But for Thursday, it's free for all. So if you're somebody who's quite passionate about the subject matter and the papers are not doing enough reportage on it, or there was a conversation we had earlier in the week but you didn't have a chance to contribute, or there's something going on in your community, in your local government area, or you have a general opinion about the state of security, our politics, our policies, you want to give us a first-person account of what your own reality is as a Nigerian, today is a day that has been designated for you to report all these things. So when we finally open the phone lines and all our many portals of discuss, be sure to call in, be sure to send a message so we can hear you and the entire country can hear you. But let's focus on why we're here this very moment. As I said, Trends in the Papers is a deep dive into our dailies, although we're focusing primarily on the stories that are on the front covers, because those are of course the most prominent stories, at least according to the papers. I'm Sage Babalola. I'm connecting with Fᴜᴜ now so that we can get into the stories. We have quite a lot of stories to analyze, and well, apologies because the commercials because unfortunately, I beg your pardon, the commercials have eaten deep into the time that we have for discuss, which is why I'm trying the best I can to rush through these reports. But you have nothing to worry about. We will maximize the time that we have for the program. Let's take a very quick break. There might be a little bit of a disruption with connecting with Fᴜᴜ. So the minute we're able to establish that connection, best believe we would of course move on with the discuss. It is the Morning Express on Mainland 98.3 FM. Don't go anywhere.
When the airwaves in your market become more and more crowded, it's time to break it open and really stand out. It's here.
Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.
Fantastic conversations.
Great to see you again. It's good weather. You want to agree with that?
Yeah, I love weather.
Trending music.
I live the life that I love. I love the life that I live. Tomorrow.
Traffic updates.
Ojaoba and Charity intersections is good. There's no cause for alarm.
Sports. And everything fun is right here on Mainland 98.3 FM. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back. Thank you for your patience. Again, I just wanted to make sure that everything goes very smoothly so that we don't suffer any disruptions when we begin the conversation. We still have not been able to connect with our side, but in the meantime, we might as well go on with the discourse. Let's look at the Punch newspaper. We have power showdown. Wike block defiant as PDP Board of Trustees insist on convention. Oh, I think we have Fuad on board. Good morning, Fuad.
Yeah, good morning, Sage. How are you doing?
I thought you were not interested in the conversation this morning, so I wanted to move on. How are you, Fuad?
I'm good, very good. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you so much. I appreciate you for asking. All right, well, let's get into it. The Punch, PDP is what it opens with this morning. As I said, power showdown, Wike block defiant as PDP Board of Trustees insist on convention. Now, the crisis rocking the People's Democratic Party is far from over as the faction loyal to the Federal Capital Territory Minister Nyesom Wike insisted that the National Convention of the party slated for Ibadan, Oyo State capital, between November 15 and 16 will not hold. Now, despite the position of the party's Board of Trustees earlier on Wednesday, urging the National Working Committee to go ahead with the convention, the group led by the factional acting national chairman Abdurrahman Mohammed said the event will not hold. Now, Abdurrahman and his group met at the Wuye private office of the embattled party secretary Samuel Ayamu to brief the media about their activities. They said they've gotten a copy, the certified true copy of the Justice James Omotosho's ruling, and they said, and I quote, the national chairman actually just says Abdurrahman, or the factional chairman. The national leadership of the PDP, under my humble self, in collaboration with our national secretary Samuel Ayamu, hereby formally inform the Nigeria public that we have received the certified true copy of the recent judgment of the Federal High Court Abuja delivered by Honorable Justice Omotosho. We're pleased to confirm that our esteemed national legal advisor Kamaldeen Ajibade has provided a total and thorough legal opinion on the implications of the judgment, and in strict adherence to due process and our commitment to fairness, we have filed an appeal before the Court of Appeal to seek judicial clarification and interpretation in the overall interest of our party. Consequently, having filed an appeal and in line with our responsibility to uphold the rule of law in PDP, we hereby suspend and cancel the proposed Ibadan National Convention pending the decision of the Court of Appeal. Any continuation with the proposed convention at this time will amount to a violation of the rule of law and of Justice Omotosho. That is the position of the factional chairman, Abdurrahman. But as you know, for the Board of Trustees and PDP Ibadan, or PDP or your state specifically, are still insisting that they will go ahead, and they've started to rally individuals for said convention.
Well, Sage, luckily the courts are there to sort things out for our politicians and our political parties, even though the courts to appear enmeshed in this on how do I put it, self-inflicted damage that we're seeing from the PDP. It's not anything new, but this could come at a larger scale, Sage. These kinds of crises are not new, where within a political party, internal crisis first start to the point where, at the end of the day, they present candidates at the general election and the court tell them, you actually have no candidate because you've not done the right thing. We had that experience in Rivers State, where the APC could not even present any candidate. We've had something like that also in Zamfara, where the APC fought themselves to a standstill. And at the end of the day, court rulings showed that they could not have been able to legally present a candidate. So the DOT, the remaining governors in the party can decide that they will be working with the Oyo State High Court ruling that has told them, not even ruling actually, an expert here that has told them that they can go ahead, yes, with the elective national convention. While the Wike people, this Abdurrahman man now, who suddenly is also like a factional chairman of the party, he's saying that, look, they will rather abide by the Federal High Court judgment of Justice Omotosho that has told them that they needed to meet some requirements before they can proceed with their national convention. He is talking about an appeal court. I don't know whether anybody is already appealing that federal high court judgment. I don't understand where his idea of the appeal court ruling is coming from. If you understand what I'm saying, Sage. As it stands today, I don't think anybody has filed an appeal against that federal high court judgment that Abdulrahman is referring to. What we have gotten after the federal high court judgment is that, look, there are party members who had approached the Oyo State High Court and have gotten an ex-party order that could well allow the party to proceed with the national convention. Yes, I'm with you.
Saying that just for respect for the rule of law, that they actually have filed an appeal before the Court of Appeal, but they're seeking judicial clarification on that judgment upon receiving the CTC of the judgment.
So you see the problem now. The people who are quietly involved in how the courts have stopped the convention are still the same people who have told you that they have filed an appeal, but they are still waiting for judicial clarification.
Yes.
See, the politicians should not mess with our brain. They can be disturbing themselves, because at the end of, if there's going to be an appeal to the federal court judgment, it should be coming from the Sheyima people.
Yeah, they agree with
so how do you begin to interpret a situation where this man that has been appointed by AIU, and of course people who are probably more disposed to the idea of the convention not holding, and the ones who are saying they have not filed an appeal, but they are waiting for a judicial interpretation of, you have not even gotten a proper interpretation of the ruling. You said you already have an appeal. So, you see, like I said the last time, it is well with the PDP. Two things will happen at the end of the day. My own analysis of the issue. You see that the PDP is not able to present a candidate at all. Or at the end of the day, they will present a candidate for fulfilling all righteousness, and the candidate in proper interpretation would have been a candidate that has been presented to them by the APC. So it is well with the soul of the PDP. I think it is what it is. And we just have to continue to update, because again, they keep making the news for the wrong reason.
Well, we do have more national issues to worry about, though. The Punch newspaper is reporting 15% import tariff could make Nigeria fuel-producing powerhouse, says refiners. Nigeria's petrol importation is projected to decline by as much as 80% following the implementation of the 15% import tariff on refined petroleum products, the Crude Oil Refiners Association of Nigeria has said. Speaking in an interview with The Punch on Wednesday, Koran's publicity secretary, Eche Idoko, said the tariff, alongside other government reforms, was already triggering a major turnaround in the downstream petroleum market and easing pressure on the foreign exchange market. Idoko commended President Tinubu and his economic team for implementing bold reforms in the oil and gas sector, beginning with the removal of fuel subsidy, the adoption of the Naira for crude policy, and now the introduction of the 15% import duty. I'd like us to take a twin story, or a story that is somewhat similar, because the Guardian had reported that the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Segun Ajayi Kadir, called for the full privatization of all government-owned refineries, saying it's evident that the country may never succeed in restoring them to functionality. And also, the presidential special advisor to the president on energy, Oluwasegun, also said the federal government is actually open to selling the refineries of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. And the 100 billion naira suits that Dangote had filed in the court because of the licenses that were just being granted to people, that suit has been withdrawn yesterday, or dismissed. That's the right word, has been dismissed yesterday. So for what? We have the Association of Refiners who are saying that this 15% tariff is for the greater good, and we will see less pressure on our currency because importation will be minimized. And as much as the supposed outcome is something to celebrate, because of the processes or the peculiarities of our oil sector, experts are still worried. If you don't import, can you guarantee refining capacity to meet the domestic needs of Nigerians? How many refineries are even functional at this time? And we also have a federal government that is saying, or a presidency that is saying, we're very open to selling off these refineries, whilst another group is saying, maybe just privatize these refineries since you cannot manage it.
You see, the confusion we have in the Nigerian oil sector just simply validates the argument of a lot of Nigerians who think that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had no working template, had no idea, had no proper reasoning of how to deal with inherent problems within the oil sector before taking a decision to remove subsidy. You know, people have said that even if we had agreed that subsidy had to go, even some of us felt that, look, could have been handled in a better way. That look, some of these issues that we are now talking about today, say, because you know, this entire conversation now is still about how to make things affordable, how to make petroleum products affordable for Nigeria. Yeah. That's what we're actually talking about now. Apart from the fact that, again, as an oil-producing nation, we could have been able to do better with revenue generation and all of those. But for the average Nigerian, the conversation is still about how to make the product available and affordable, since we are not producing nation. So where we are now, for me, I can't there's a really no clear direction as to what to really do. So you come up, do this one today, do that one tomorrow, and then you have people getting completely confused about really what's going on as far as the policy direction of this government is concerned for the oil sector. Now, you mentioned it already. These refiners can be saying, oh, the 50% tariff on imported petrol and diesel is going to help local refining. Yeah. The question is, how many refineries do we even have in the country as we speak? The association itself, the refiners, I'm not sure any of them even have any functional refinery apart from the Dangote refinery.
To ask, I mean, they want to do special unveilings.
So because, you know, everybody just forms an association. Even if they are refiners, I don't know what they are refining anyway. You understand? So, but let's certainly work with the fact that, look, they might be speaking for the Dangote refinery, which is the only known functional refinery in the country. The other ones are majorly functioning as blending plants.
Yeah.
On record, I don't even think any modular refinery is working in Nigeria, in reality. So, the question is there a guarantee? Because again, it's always good to dot all I's and cross all T's. Have complete disclosure. So that you don't take the policy decision and then suddenly something happens and you find yourself, quote unquote, pants down. You are like, where do I go from here? What do we do? Not with a very sensitive matter, like the price of petroleum products anyway, because it affects everybody and anything in the country. So where is the guarantee going to come from that local? Because the reality is this, say, if we cannot guarantee that our local refineries, and as we speak this morning, that is only Dangote refinery, can guarantee us adequate supply domestically, then we are taking a very, very big risk. Because if something happens and there's a supply disruption from Dangote refinery, what it means is that we now have to rely only on those ones who are importing these products into the country. And what they are going to do basically is to transfer that 15% on the end users. So what it means is that we might not get to the point where they will tell us, oh, you are buying at 1.5 because again we are bringing in the gain of 15% extra, blah, 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 all of that. So the question is, one would have thought that the government will make more effort to ensure that we can beat our chest to say, look, when it comes to local refining and capacity to sort ourselves out locally, we have been able to sort that out. But this is a gamble that will lead us into a bigger problem when it comes to the pricing of petroleum products in the country going ahead. But again, if the refiners are saying it's a good one, in fact, they are saying that they're already impact. Is that not what they are saying?
Yes. The triple policy of the government, Naira for crude, the 15% tariff, and the removal of fuel subsidy.
Okay, what impact has he had? They should tell us. They didn't tell us the impact.
It will boost local production, that's it.
Okay, it has boost local production. Okay, so this now they didn't say long run. They say now they already having impact.
I'm saying that it should be in the long run.
So you are the one speaking for them now. Me, I was asking that what impact can we see it has gotten on? You should tell us the impact now.
That's what I'm saying. It says it's projected to decline. Like importation is projected to decline.
Okay, so when importation declines, what will not happen?
And it's triggering a major turnaround in the downstream sector.
So what is that turnaround?
It's Quran people that will come and answer. I don't know for you.
You see, because the issue is this. See, the issue is this. Yes, we are happy that we are able to do everything possible and anything possible to support the idea of refining our petroleum products locally. In fact, in one of the reports in the paper, I think one expert is even saying that it's even wrong that we are majorly exporting our crude.
Yeah.
We should be looking at refining more, and then building our petroleum sector to the point where the focus is refining and science tariff is coming, when we cannot safely say we can sort ourselves out locally. The other issue is, and I think you got the report in, we still don't know what you say no matter of it. No, yes, is that the way I can present what as it stands, we don't even know what he intends to do. You understand? The only thing is we are open. Open. What exactly do you want to do?
It was actually 괰ᴜᴜ that said it, the special advisor on.
That is the special advisor.
Yes.
So she's speaking as advisor to the president.
Yes.
That they are open to selling the refinery.
Yes.
The functional state.
They recanted. He had also earlier said that they were open to selling, but then he recanted, right?
And this is what we're saying. Don't you think this government should have been able to have a clear policy idea as to what they want to do with the refineries before even touching subsidy? Don't you think so? You see, as it stands with now, as it stands now. That was what I was asking you the last time. That are you sure we actually have this refinery? I didn't still exist. The federal advisor is there now saying, okay, they are open to selling it. The man there initially I told they will sell it. I think when the FᴜΓᴜ people, the Nupeng and FᴜΓᴜ people believed in, he retracted the statement, and then because they are also one of the people that have been there to say nobody can sell those refineries. They don't mind that refinery is there for the next 100 years without producing anything, so far they can collect their salaries and continue to collect their union dues. Yes, that was what happened. Even when he first came in and said, the idea would be to sell off these refineries. But the report he got was that a particular forum with these guys, they bullied him, and he immediately retracted the statement. And now he's talking about the possibility of putting the refineries back to work. The special advisor to the president is saying they might say, where do we stand on these refineries? And that's why I'm saying that maybe we should just accept that they actually do refineries everywhere. And we'll move on with our lives.
We're still looking at the Punch newspaper. Strength in the papers. I am Sage Babalola. We're talking to Fuad Side as we are providing analysis to the reports in our dailies. We're still looking at the Punch. Thank you to everyone on our Facebook stream. We appreciate you. Do well to join the live stream on Facebook at Mainland 98.3 FM. We're back to the papers now. Food imports saw 45% as local production falters. I think that already is something that we've been talking about for a while, seeing as farmers at this time are unable to really farm. They're either displaced or they're scared for their lives, or the logistic problem is there. But for our side, we have now started relying heavily on food importation, and we've imported as much as 45%. That's how much importation increase we have seen in the first half of the year. Importation.
Well, we have no choice. It's just about the reality of what we are dealing with. Our farmers can no longer go to farm. The people might continue to be delusional about the fact that, look, a lot of farmers go to farm, either having to negotiate with bandits or provide their own security. Provide their own security with a heavy cost coming with that. You understand what I'm saying? For example, look at some of the reports we get from Kwara State, for example. Do you think anybody will be, so emboldened, for example, to go into the bush anywhere in Kwara State now to say, I want to go there and farm? You know that for a lot of Nigerians who are even looking for business opportunities, people keep coming to say, you can go into farming. But once you drop the proposal and you look at your safety, because in reality, we've seen people who have done farming who say, look, you cannot be an absentee farmer. You've got to be available to monitor your entire farming process. But you look at yourself and say, somebody Jimmy, somebody Baby. See, People are so known now. You can do farming. You can't just be a journalist and be speaking drama every day. There's one land somewhere in Ondo. Hey, maybe we should go and do the business together.
Who is that? Why are you talking to?
And I said, oh, you know what? Oh, that's a good idea. But you know what? Can I do the farming business? Oh, they say there's 100 acres somewhere, blah, blah. You plant, you plant. Oh, beautiful. So, but can I just put the money? I said, no. You know that you can't be an assembly farmer. You have to be the farmers once in a while. You go there to see what is going on. And I just asked myself, property is not baby that income.
Well,
where would the ransom come from?
Yes?
The
First Lady has told us we should focus on small-scale farming. Plant vegetables in your backyard, plant tomatoes in your backyard.
And so that is what will solve our food problem.
Maybe. So
you have started your mechanizing farming idea.
Yes, but go and remove the interlocking on the floor of your backyard and go and plant something. But it's very
even the garden of the first lady or the farm of the first lady, does it still exist? Have you seen anything?
I don't know. I don't live there.
After the first vegetable was harvested, that the one we saw in the basket, it's looking very fresh. Have you harvested anything again from the first lady farm?
Sure.
That you know.
Giving you daily updates of her farmland. Okay.
But the farm still exists, you know whether the farm still exists.
I don't know. But it is indeed very sad. I mean, aside from the should I say comical part of all of this, of which is really not funny. You know when something's so confusing.
It's not funny.
Almost 40,000 hectares of arable land, and we are depending heavily 45% importation increase in a country with thousands of arable land. Unfortunately, those who are supposed to till the ground, those who are supposed to put seed in the ground, are wasting away in IDP camps, afraid to go to their farm, or they're paying taxes to bandits in form of cash and harvest. It's a very unfortunate.
And you know, it's across different parts of the country.
Right.
Yes, a lot of focus on how farmers are not able to go to farm because of attacks and what have you. We always think it's just about the north central part of the country. I was telling you yesterday, if you go to Zamfara, Sokoto, Kano, you have the Awusas who are majorly farmers. It is the Fulanis who are herders. They are also facing the same threat. You go to the northeastern part of the country, it's still the same thing. So, again, you have a situation where it's not just about Trump telling us there's Christian genocide or no Christian genocide. The reality is that as a people, we are not able to organize ourselves. We are not able to do the right thing. And I must say that this government has been extremely disappointing in the area of providing insecurity. In the area of providing security for Nigerians. And the fact, the effect is what you're saying, but the fact that, look, we are not heavily dependent on importation of food into the country.
Indeed. Well, we have my father left 20 houses, 30 children, Abba Kyari. Suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police Abba Kyari on Wednesday told the Federal High Court in Abuja that several properties linked to him by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency belong to his late belong to his late father and were jointly owned by 30 other children. And when during cross-examination, when being asked why he did not declare these properties, he says, well, they're not officially mine. They belong to my father. There's 30 of us who are supposed to share these properties. And because I had not gotten my own share of these houses, I cannot...
we can't wait. For people who are interested, that's his defense. You've told him he has a lot of properties I didn't disclose, and suspicion is that those monies were getting from illegal means, dealings with, drug dealers, blah, 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 criminals, a policeman, the much celebrated celebrity policeman who has suddenly become super cop. God bless you. But his defense is that I get all those properties.
Yeah.
If they never even give up. That's your word.
That might be useful in future.
For you or for who?
I don't know. Please, this is a joke. I would like to categorically state that this is a joke. Please.
Page on national radio.
Sir,
okay.
I say it's a joke, please. But
that's why the father that owns all the properties.
Yeah.
Like father is,
and it's
they have to. Again, this is not to preempt anything. I'm not part of the prosecution counsel. Right? It would have been nice to see when and how the father acquired all those properties, the years, how he paid for them. Evidence to see sources of how his father was able to buy those properties. So again, I'm sure that we'll see the end. We'll actually wait to see how this case against him ends. Yeah.
Well, that is the situation. Let's look at The Guardian. Stop celebrating worthless GDP figures. Osibajo warns African government. Former Vice President Yemi Osibajo has cautioned African government against celebrating gross domestic product growth figures that do not translate into improved living conditions for citizens. The former Vice President said his experience in office revealed a deep disconnect between macroeconomic numbers and the daily realities of ordinary Nigerians. He said, and I'm reading verbatim, Africa is the fastest growing continent in GDP terms and has been so far for a while. Yet, it remains the continent with the lowest overall quality of life based on global indices like health, education, infrastructure, and economic stability. In other words, GDP growth does not mean development for the majority. It does not necessarily translate to jobs or a decent life for citizens. When we discuss GDP growth, the vast majority ask, do these people live in a different country? I can't pay my children's school fees or hospital bills. Where is this growth? It became clear to me that when we as a government talk about growth, citizens wonder what we're talking about. Only big businesses like banks, inability to reconcile reality with these figures. I think even with the rebasing of the economy, there was this argument as well that these figures are always nice. These figures, according to the government, is an indication of growth. But look at the day-to-day life of the average Nigerian. It does not reflect in how they're living. So these figures are worthless, according to the former VP. Fuad.
This is the former VP, right?
Yes.
He's a professor.
Yes.
And he's also very experienced, right?
Chair of the economic team, during his
very understand. So if he's saying what I have repeated severally on this show that look, you can have beautiful GDP data, if I rebase your figures, but you can't rebase the reality of the people. They know what they go through, they know what they are dealing with. And look at what he has said, that it is only in Africa that the microeconomic data is always looking good. Yeah. But when you look at the living standards of the people, it is still poor healthcare, poor education, poor infrastructure, multidimensional poverty, and these beautiful figures. It is either the leaders in the continent, and I think at the end of the day, Prof is talking about Nigeria. He just made it an African discussion. Papa just talk about Africa. In reality, he just wanted to talk about Nigeria. You don't understand what I'm saying? But he needed to, it did sound a bit
blanket.
But we know that it's not anything blanketing, anything. It's about the situation we have now. So it's not to appear as if we're directly criticizing the government. But we know it's about Nigeria. These so-called figures are looking very good. But check it to the reality of the people. And that's why I said that, look, you might say I'm not an economist, so why do I have to begin to question economic figures? The reality is that we will question it on the basis of common sense. This is common sense economics. See, the GDP figures are looking good. The inflation figures are looking good. The unemployment figures are looking good, right? But in the same country, more people have been driven into poverty. How then does it make any sense?
Fuad, I'm sorry. Branching away, yesterday whilst I was talking to ᴏᴜᴜᴜ and I told him that following the ILO methodology that unemployment rate is now 45%. He said the person that put out that report, they should arrest.
It's not 4%, 4.5%.
He said they should arrest the person that put out that particular report.
You know that it's just that we're on radio. If it's not radio, it's not just arrest. Before you arrest, sometimes it comes to mind like you first beat up the person. Like, are you okay?
Why do you continue?
So, we and that's why we are in this mess, because we are also in a situation where it is not just the government not accepting the reality of the people. They are completely detached from the reality of the people, and that's understandable because they are overfed. They know how to take care of themselves. They know how to sleep their children through the system too. You can see what is happening now. It's not like from father to children. They know how to take care of themselves, their friends and associates. But you cannot now begin to force the people to begin to deny their own reality. We are also in a situation where if you tell them that we are hungry, now they say, no, you can't say you are hungry. You are not hungry. I say I'm hungry. I can't pay my rent. That's what the sugar is saying.
Take rice.
If you ask, yeah?
Take rice.
That what? Sorry.
Take rice.
The reality stares us in the face. We live amongst real people. And we know what they go through on a daily basis. And instead of us having an economy that works for everybody, that is inclusive in nature. We have now turned our economy to a palliative economy where we dish out handouts. Rice, we start talking about rice now. I don't share rice. So it is, and that's why sometimes when government even comes out with other figures, that the foreign reserve has grown by this amount, people keep questioning it. They think it's all about propaganda. As we speak now, Sage, the government says they need more, we are making more money, everything is looking good, blah, blah, blah. But as we speak now, the borrowing has not stopped. It's even getting bigger. Initially, they told us that you can see that we are not even borrowing locally again. Now there's a new request in the Senate, of about 1.1 trillion naira. They said we're part of the plan because they expanded the budget, but they want to borrow locally now. So you say that you are telling us you are making more money, everything is getting better, but the borrowing has not stopped. It has getting bigger under this government. As we speak, contractors are not being paid. They have been protesting in Abuja. Paid. The government that tells you they are making more money, everything is looking good, they are giving more money to government, cannot pay its contractors. So how do you reconcile all of these things? The impact on the citizens you cannot see. On infrastructure, have you seen any tangible thing that you can say, on infrastructure, this is what they will be able to deliver? On healthcare, what have we seen? On education, what have we seen?
Well, for what we actually have to go. Just very briefly, the Senate has okayed 14-year jail term for lecturers and others that are guilty of sexual harassment in schools. So if you're convicted as a lecturer or a guardian, especially in tertiary institutions or in schools generally, you would be eligible for 14 years in prison. We also have this here as the Constitution amendment is currently being discussed at the Senate. The call for referendum has continued to heighten. I don't make these decisions on behalf of the people. Throw it open. Take the contributions of the people who would be impacted by these amendments that you're making. So the call for referendum has continued to heighten as constitution amendment progresses at the Senate rather. And of course, federal government rejects CPC tag as Falana dismisses Trump genocide claim. And as you said, Fuad, the reps are currently scrutinizing the president's 1.15 trillion naira loan request. And that's really everything that we have for you, except Professor Wale Soyinka, who's saying that he did predict that a lot of people were going to have their green card revoked, a lot of deportation was going to happen, and I think he had described Trump as something of an Idi Amin at some point. He's been an open critic of Trump, so nobody.
But things are happening in the U.S. For people who have followed the election a day before yesterday, the results of the election, the Democratic Party is looking good. They are looking very good. Things look very good for that party ahead of the midterm elections next year. As we speak, even the Supreme Court in the U.S. is already looking at whether Trump has gotten sweeping powers to just impose global tariff and cause economic destruction over the world without having to get approval from the Senate, from the American Senate. So we might be getting a ruling that nullifies everything Trump has done with his tariffs. And he himself has already saying the Supreme Court nullifies his powers to be able to impose tariff without getting approval from the Assembly, from the legislation, from the U.S. legislature. And that would be very unfortunate. So we are always saying that, look, the American system may eventually be taming Trump. See, if you understand what I'm saying. Yeah. In terms of elections, if the Democratic Party takes over the parliament next year, if they are able to start to have majority in the Senate and the House of Reps, there will be a lot of taming of Trump. And then, of course, you also have a situation where the judiciary is doing its own work to also tame him, so that it doesn't just continue to do things without following the law in the U.S. So, interesting conversations ahead as far as U.S. politics is concerned.
Right. Thank you very much, Fad. We have to go on a break so we can come back for Mainland Focus. Thank you for your analysis as always. It's still Mainland.